Ethan Miller was born in one of the poorest areas of Detroit, a neighborhood where the cracked asphalt told stories of abandonment and every street corner carried the weight of hardship. His house was simple, with peeling walls and a roof that creaked on windy nights. His mother worked as a cashier in a small market, and his father earned a living as a mechanic, taking odd jobs to keep the family afloat. From a young age, Ethan learned that nothing came for free. By the age of 10, he was already helping his father change tires and clean old engine parts. There was no luxury, but there was an undeniable sense of honor in hard work. While other boys dreamed of fame or sports cars, Ethan dreamed of something different: freedom. The neighborhood, however, didn't offer many ways out. Violence was common, and crime was a fast, but dangerous route to money. Ethan watched childhood friends lose themselves to that life and promised himself he wouldn't follow the same path. He didn't want to be remembered as just another one who stayed. During high school, he started working as a delivery boy for a repair shop and, with the little he earned, bought second-hand business books from thrift stores. He spent entire nights studying, imagining ways to create something that could change his destiny. At 18, he made the decision that would change everything. He would leave Detroit. It was a quiet farewell. His mother cried, and his father simply gave him a firm handshake and said, "Son, the world out there won't hand you anything on a silver platter. But if you have courage and patience, it will give you opportunities." Ethan carried only a backpack, some saved-up cash, and a heart full of determination. The first years were brutal. He worked as a waiter, dishwasher, construction helper, and even a night office cleaner. But every dollar he saved was invested in courses, equipment, and small business ideas. At 23, he had his first major breakthrough: a simple website selling used auto parts, inspired by what he had learned from his father. Within a few years, he expanded into exports and closed deals with companies across several states. The business grew, and with the profits, Ethan began to diversify: real estate, technology, and even a coffee shop chain. Interestingly, even as his wealth grew, he never sought fame. He didn't give interviews, avoided magazines, and stayed away from social media. He preferred to live as the ordinary man who could walk down the street unnoticed. Nearly 15 years had passed since he left the neighborhood. Now in his early 30s, Ethan was a millionaire, owning several companies and with solid investments. But deep down, he still felt a connection to the place where he grew up. One chilly autumn afternoon, as he looked out over the city from the balcony of his penthouse apartment, he decided to go back for a visit. Not to flaunt his wealth or prove something, just to walk the streets where he learned to fight and maybe find some familiar faces. What he didn't know was that, on this return, he would find much more than memories. He would also find someone who had marked his heart since his teenage years, and who would trigger a chain of events that would change his life once again. When Ethan returned to his old neighborhood, everything seemed smaller than he remembered. The streets still had potholes, the old dirt field where he used to play soccer with friends was abandoned, and many houses looked even more worn down by time. As he walked, he noticed some familiar older faces, neighbors he recognized now carrying wrinkles and gray hair. He received a few waves, but few recognized him right away. He had changed a lot, not just in the way he dressed but in his posture. He decided to stop by the small corner cafe, a place he had visited almost every day as a teenager. The smell of strong coffee mixed with fresh bread brought a wave of nostalgia as he stepped inside. That's when he heard a voice behind him. "Ethan Miller? Is that really you?" When he turned around, he saw Claire. She looked different, but still had the same smile he'd known since he was 14. Her brown hair was now shorter, and her eyes seemed even more striking. "Claire," he said, surprised, but with a warm feeling in his chest. They hugged. In that moment, time seemed to fold in on itself. They sat at a table by the window and began to talk. Claire told him she had never left the neighborhood. After high school, she worked in shops, studied business administration at night, and had recently achieved something she considered a big step: a position as an administrative assistant at a huge company downtown. Her eyes sparkled as she spoke about the new job. "It's a golden opportunity for me, Ethan. I finally feel like I can change my life," she said with a smile. Ethan, in turn, told her he had traveled a lot and worked in many different jobs. He kept the story simple, leaving out the fact that he owned companies and had a fortune. He didn't want the tone of the conversation to change or for her to see him differently. In the days that followed, they spent more and more time together. They reminisced about bike rides, afternoons at the field, and even the silly arguments they used to have as teenagers. It was as if time hadn't erased their connection. With their relationship rekindled, Claire seemed excited and full of plans. Ethan, on the other hand, felt a mix of happiness and caution. He remembered how the neighborhood shaped tough people, but he also knew life could change anyone's priorities. A week later, Claire finally signed the contract with her new company. Ethan congratulated her and said he was happy for her but would need to take a quick business trip. It would be just 1 week away. Nothing major. "When I get back, I'm taking you to the best restaurant in the city," he said with a smile. "Deal. But you're going to have to tell me more about your life out there, Mr. Mysterious," she replied, laughing. Ethan had no idea that when he returned from that trip, their meeting at her workplace would be nothing like he had planned. Ethan's trip lasted just over a week, but it felt like months. He spent his days handling business matters, attending meetings, and closing important deals. Despite keeping his focus on work, his thoughts constantly drifted back to Claire, imagining how happy she must be in her new job and how eager she would be to tell him all about her first week. On the day of his return, he decided to surprise her. Instead of calling or sending a message, he chose to show up directly at the company where she had started. He was curious to see the environment and also to meet the people she worked with. The building was modern, with mirrored glass walls and a large silver sign at the entrance. Ethan knew every detail of it. After all, it was one of the jewels of his business conglomerate. But in that moment, he entered like any other visitor, wearing simple clothes and not revealing himself as the owner. As he rode the elevator up, he noticed the busy flow of people carrying folders and laptops. He passed the reception desk and headed toward the department where Claire should be. As he approached, he saw her from behind, talking to a man in an expensive suit with a confident smile. He didn't need to ask. This was the manager. What happened next hit him like a punch to the stomach. Without anyone noticing, Ethan saw Claire lean in to kiss the man. It wasn't a quick, polite kiss. It was something that made their intimacy undeniable. His first instinct was to step back and leave, but something inside pushed him to walk toward them. Claire was the first to notice him, and she looked surprised, but not in the way he had hoped. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" she asked, crossing her arms. "I came to see you. I wanted to surprise you. But I guess the surprise was mine." He looked directly at the manager. "And you must be the boss." The manager let out a mocking laugh. "And you must be..." "Oh, right. The boyfriend from her neighborhood." Claire chuckled along. "Ethan, look. You're a nice guy, but you need to understand. My life has changed. I work here now with people on a different level. I can't stay tied to someone with no ambition." Her words hit hard. He didn't answer right away. The manager, seizing the moment, spoke in an arrogant tone. "Man, this place isn't for you. People like us need to be with others on the same level, you know?" Some employees passing by stopped to watch. Murmurs spread. The scene was clear: a simple man being belittled by the woman he loved and by someone who thought himself untouchable. Ethan took a deep breath. "I see. Good to know." He turned and left, without raising his voice, without arguing. But behind that silence, something was stirring. It wasn't sadness. It was the certainty that this humiliation would not go unanswered. Neither Claire, nor the manager, nor the curious onlookers who had witnessed the scene had any idea that the man they had just looked down on was the true owner of that building, that company, and, in a way, their fate. The morning after the humiliation, Ethan woke up before sunrise. He spent some time looking out the window of his apartment, the city still silent. The memory of the previous day's scene replayed in his mind like a looping film, but now without emotional weight. There was only a clear decision to be made. He picked up the phone and made a quick call. "Good morning, Oliver. Schedule a general meeting for this afternoon with all departments present. And send me the file on the administrative manager." "Yes, that one." "Oh, and let HR know we'll have terminations." His voice was firm and controlled. A few hours later, Ethan arrived at the company headquarters. this time not as the simple man from the day before. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, a discreet yet valuable watch, and an expression that mixed calm with authority. In the parking lot, his team of directors was already waiting for him. As he walked into the building, all eyes turned toward him. Many had never seen him in person before. The manager, upon noticing his presence, looked confused. Claire, who was nearby, widened her eyes as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. In the main conference room, more than 50 employees were gathered. Ethan stood at the front while one of the directors announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ethan Miller, founder, CEO, and owner of this company." A dead silence fell over the room. Some whispered, others looked stunned. Claire brought a hand to her mouth. The manager took a step back, as if trying to process the information. Ethan began to speak. "Yesterday I was here, not as the owner, not as the boss, but as an ordinary person. And I was treated in the worst possible way by two people who should represent this company's values: respect, ethics, and professionalism. Unfortunately, they failed miserably." He paused, looking directly at the manager and at Claire. "Mr. Patrick, administrative manager, and Ms. Claire, you are officially terminated from this company effective immediately. Your access will be blocked at once, and the HR department will provide your termination paperwork." Claire stepped forward, trying to regain control. "Ethan, I didn't know. You never told me who you were." "Exactly." He cut her off firmly. "Because I wanted to be seen for who I am, not for what I have. And now I know exactly how you see me." The manager tried to speak, but Ethan raised his hand. "There's no place here for people who use power to humiliate others. This is a place where we build opportunities, not egos." Security quietly entered to escort them out. The room remained silent as everyone watched. After they were gone, Ethan continued, "To everyone else, I want to make it clear that this company is built by people, and everyone here has the same value. Your title or background doesn't matter. Treat each other with respect, because what you build here is greater than any name on a badge." The meeting ended with timid applause, which quickly grew stronger. Employees who had never seen the owner up close felt that, on that day, they had met not just a leader, but someone who understood the weight of dignity. In the lobby, as he prepared to leave, Ethan saw Claire waiting. She approached, tears in her eyes. "Ethan, I was wrong. I thought you were a failure." He finished for her without bitterness in his voice. "Don't worry, Claire. You showed me who you really are, and that's worth more than any apology." He walked away, got into his car, and drove off. For the first time in a long while, he felt a strange lightness. There was no victory in the traditional sense, only the certainty that he didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The city outside was still alive, and Ethan, silent as always, would return to his work, his companies, his life, with the same philosophy that had brought him this far. True power lies in who you are, not in what you have.